Hi everybody, my name is Steele Wagstaff. Welcome to the Using Pressbooks Results in Blackboard webinar. I appreciate everybody who's here today and then everybody who registered. I will be sharing this recording, so welcome. If you're new to Pressbooks Results, let me give a quick overview of what it is. Pressbooks Results allows you to take a Pressbooks chapter and embed quizzes and other interactive material using the free and open source plugin H5P. Once you've put those quizzes in a chapter, you can then configure that chapter for grading with the LMS. You would pick which activities are included in the grade report. You'd pick a grading scheme, and then you can take that content and load it securely in Blackboard in your course and connect it to the Blackboard Gradebook, which means students launch it from Blackboard, they attempt the activity, and the grade will show up in the Blackboard Gradebook. We also have a tool called the Pressbooks Results Viewer in Blackboard that lets a student or the instructor view details of the student's attempt on the individual activities. So if it's a fill in the blank question, you can see what the students provided as their answer for each attempt. And if it's an essay, you can see what they wrote as the essay, etc. So it's a really powerful tool for formative assessment and for helping students and instructors understand what students are learning in the course context using either a public open textbook in Pressbooks or private content, as the case may be. So I'm going to get started by showing how this works starting in the Pressbooks platform. So I will share my screen here and I'm going to log in. If you'd like to follow along, you're welcome to use any book you have in Pressbooks. This is a sample book that I've pre-prepared. If H5P is new to you, then the first thing you'd want to do is come into the Plugins menu and click Activate under H5P. This will activate the plugin, and once it's active, you'll see an H5P content option in your in your left book navigation dashboard. From this menu is where you can see all of the existing H5P content you've already created. So in this case, I've got a couple of questions, or you can click the Add New button to create new H5P content. I'm going to come back to my book dashboard, and this is a book that I pre-prepared with lots of content. So to activate Pressbooks Results, I'm going to assume you already have chapters built and you've already added gradable H5P activities in your book. We'll then click the Organize menu, and we're going to open one of these chapters that's been in this case, it's been pre-configured. If you've never inserted H5P into a chapter before, the way that you do it is you'll come down to the place that you want to put the activity, you'll click the Add H5P button, and then you'll look through the titles and find the activity we want to insert. In this case, it's an essay at the end. And then it will insert a little shortcode. You can preview the chapter and see what it looks like with your embedded H5P. Okay, great. There's a quiz here. There's another fill in the blank here, a multi-part quiz here, a little bit more content down below, another multi-part quiz, and then finally a reflection essay. In this case, this is looking good. And so what I need to do now is I need to come down, I want to come down below the chapter and look at a box that says LMS grade reporting. If Pressbooks Results is active on your network, this will appear. If you don't see it, it's because Pressbooks Results hasn't been activated on your network, and you'll need to contact your network manager who can help you with that. But most networks should have this active, and the steps that you'll want to take in Pressbooks are simply click this top check mark to select all activities. This will include them in the grade report. Our recommendation is to include all. You don't have to. You could include just some of them, but that will generally be confusing to students who are seeing these graded assessments in the book and are generally probably going to expect that if they have to do the assessment, it'll be part of their grade. So include them all unless you have a strong reason, and if you have that strong reason, clearly indicate to students in the instructions which ones count and which ones don't. The next thing you'll need to do is pick a grading scheme. There's three simple options. There's first attempt, average attempt, and best attempt. First attempt means I will take your first attempt score on this activity, plus your first attempt score on this, plus your first on this, plus your first on this, and your first on this, add them together, send it to the gradebook. You might relaunch that activity and do it multiple times, but it's your first score on each activity that comprises the grade in the gradebook. Average attempt is the average of your all attempts on this one, plus the average of all attempts on this, plus the average of all attempts on this, etc. So for example, in the fill in the blanks, if I scored a 2 out of 4 the first time, and then I retried it and got a 4 out of 4, I would have a 3 out of 4 for this activity. And if I did 0 on my first attempt and then got it right twice, I would have a 0.666 repeating for that activity, and we'd add those scores up. Finally, best attempt is your best attempt on each activity added together. So there's different pedagogical reasons to choose each of those. For the way I teach, I think of this usually as formative assessment, meant to give students a chance to practice and check their understanding. And so best attempt is what I prefer, and sometimes average attempt, though your mileage may vary. So I'm going to select best attempt, and I'm going to click save. That's it. That's how you configure a chapter for grading. We'll repeat this process in the remaining chapters of the book. So I'll click next chapter. I look at this LMS grade reporting box. I'm going to select all. I'm going to select best attempt and click save. I'll come to the next chapter. I'll look at the grade reporting. I'll select all. I'll select best attempt, and I'll click save. Again, consistency is usually key. If you're doing these assignments for a grade, including all the assignments, and choosing a consistent grading scheme is generally best practice, though you don't have to. That's all you have to do in Pressbooks. So once that's done, these chapters have been configured for grading, and we're ready to move into the LMS. In this case, it's Blackboard. So I have a pre-populated course here in Blackboard. This is an empty course, and what I click here is I click Add Content, Content Market, and then you'll see the institutional tools available. You should see an option that says Pressbooks Content Selector, or the name of your Pressbooks network. In this case, I'm bringing something in from my demo university network. The name will just be whatever your LMS admin has used for the name, but usually it'll be the name of your Pressbooks network. So here, once I click this option, it will bring up a content selector. And what this shows me is all of the content on that Pressbooks network that I have access to. Because I'm doing grade passback, I'll want to select the Pressbooks Results Viewer. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to see, here's this demo book that I was configuring. There will be two types of links available typically. One of them says linked resource. What that means is this is just a sample Pressbooks chapter or content that has not been configured for grading. This will be brought in just as a regular LTI link and won't have a gradebook item associated. Graded assignment means it's something that I have configured for grading, and this will be created as a Blackboard assignment with the gradebook item associated. I can select all, or I can simply just bring in the content I want to bring in, and then click Select Content. You can do this as many times as you need. It'll bring the content in. Here you can see it's automatically created these links, and it's made them visible to students. The other thing that I can do is when it's created in Blackboard, it's automatically created as a graded assignment. And you'll notice if I edit this activity, it's visible to students. It does not have a due date, but I could set one. I could say, let's set this to be due at the end of August. And the default grade value was 10 points. I want to make this activity worth 20 points, and I can put this in a graded category. You can configure your categories however you want in the course. I could also say this is formative, don't put this in the grade calculation, and I could do any of the other kind of Blackboard alignment things I'd like to do here. That's all I'm going to do for this one. I'm just going to click Save. This next activity, I'm going to edit it and change its point value and make it worth 30 points. And that's it for the demo. So the next thing I'm going to show is I'm going to log in as a student. From the student view, I'm going to launch this first activity. And what it's showing me is it has a due date, and I haven't yet attempted it. So I will launch it in Blackboard, and this will load in a secure LTI launch. I'll see the content presented here, and I'll be able to view it and perform the assessment. So let's go ahead and work through this. I got 101. I'm not doing so great. Perfect. And I scored 2 out of 4. When it's a complex multi-part quiz, at the end, a student will need to click Finish. That's an important step, and then the grade will be recorded and submitted for that particular activity. Let's scroll down. There's a bit more. There's some audio, there's some video, and there's another quiz. So I did provide answers on these, and I'll do this one and then click finish. So I scored a 1 out of 4. And finally, here's my essay. And based on this feedback, I scored a 3 out of 3 on the essay. And here's the feedback given to me. So in this case, I have 3, 4, 7, 8. I've scored 9 points, 9 out of 20 on this activity. As a student, I can then come into the gradebook and I can view for this activity, I scored a 9 out of 20. I've attempted that one time. But I don't yet know how I earned that score. So here in the course, I'm going to come back, and this is where I'll use the Pressbooks Results Viewer that we brought in that earlier step. The Results Viewer presents a drop-down list of all of the graded assignments in a given chapter that have been brought in from Pressbooks. Here I'm viewing that literature assignment, and here you can see the title of the assignment. If I click this info box, it will tell me that I'm using the best attempt, great, and it's out of 20 points. This presents each of the individual assessments that I took to get my score of 20. I have a 9 out of 20, and if I want to see where I could improve my performance, let's take a look at this one. I scored a 1 out of 5. Clicking on the item itself will show me this was the assessment you did. If I want to see it again, I can say, oh yeah, I remember that quiz, and I can hide it. And I can see I took it one time and I got a 10-15, I got a 1 out of 5. Here's the answer that I gave that was correct. I left these all blank and they were incorrect. And I could do that for any of the individual activities. I want to improve my score on this, and I can do it by going back to this fill in the blanks quiz. So I will relaunch this activity and attempt it again. You don't have to attempt all the assessments. I could simply just focus on the ones that I didn't do well and my grade will be updated. So again, because I'm using best score, let's come down and try this. And let's enter this and see how well I did here. You can see here I scored a 4 out of 5. So my attempt was better. I'm still not getting this one correct. So let's try one more time. I have a typo. Let's see whether it has typo tolerance. Oh, good. There's typo tolerance enabled, so even though I had a typo, it still marked it as correct. I scored a 5 out of 5 on this activity now. So now when I come back and I view my gradebook, we'll see my grade has been updated. I've earned a 13 out of 20 on this now. And when I go to my Pressbooks Results Viewer, here for this particular assignment activity, I can see my score has now been updated to 5 out of 5. And I can see each of the attempts that I've taken. The second attempt, I saw all the answers. I got that one incorrect. And then my third attempt, I got them all marked as correct. So that's how the Pressbooks Results Viewer works for students and what they'll experience when using Pressbooks or Pressbooks Results in a course. Any questions so far about the Pressbooks Results Viewer and the student view?
Yeah, I just had one quick question that I noticed. If I'm not mistaken, so there's the points value of the H5P items in the press books, but when you were in Blackboard, you could assign a different grade.
Right.
How
Yeah.
does that work? Does Pressbooks just kind of convert it based on what Blackboard's looking for?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great question. So here you'll see this is the raw point value for each of the individual activities. So this happens to sum to 20. I could make it worth 10 or 50 or 17 or whatever I want in Blackboard. And the way the LTI specification works is when Pressbook sends a score back, they're actually going to send this as a fraction. They're going to say 13 out of 20, we're going to give the LMS the score of 0.65, and it will convert it to the points possible in the LMS. For the purposes of this demo, I just made those two numbers match so it'd be less confusing. But yeah, if I were to make this worth 15 points and the student scored, what, I don't know, 15 out of 20, then we would just scale that score and it'd be 15 divided by 20 times 15, and the score would be whatever that is. What's 3/4 of 15? I don't know. My math isn't that great. It's probably 11 point something.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
And actually, I did have one other question, if you don't mind.
sure.
From what I could see, it looks like when Pressbooks is carrying over through the LTI to Blackboard, it's doing it per chapter. So,
Yes, that's
I'm
correct.
assuming in the Blackboard Grade Center, each of those chapters that you've enabled grading on the H5Ps come over.
Yeah,
If you Can you break that up more so that Blackboard is seeing it more per H5P activity? Or to view that, do you basically just have to go into the Pressbooks results and get the
It,
breakdown there?
exactly. The way that Pressbooks will do it will be the assignment itself, the graded assignment is the chapter.
Gotcha.
And that will be the line item in the gradebook. The results viewer is where you see the details. We explored doing this a couple different ways. And if you do it, if we had line items for every individual activity in the gradebook, it just becomes so cluttered and unusable for instructors. So the best
Sure.
way for us to organize it is the chapter is the gradebook assignment, and the results viewer is the drill down for detail. So I'll just show the instructor view just so you can kind of see what I mean by that. This
Sure.
is not going to be a super capacious view because I only have one test student that's done it. But if this were a real course, you'd see all of the students in the course. You would see all the activities and you would see a table that shows you like, okay, I could view this vertically and see which quiz or which assessment did most students have the most trouble with. That's the one I'm going to cover in class tomorrow. And then I can view it horizontally and take a look at each student and be like, oh, that student's really struggling. I'm going to pair those two people up with the student who's doing really well when we work on this concept in class tomorrow. The instructor can also select any one of the graded assignments in the course and the view will just be updated. So like, I don't think anybody's attempted this one yet, but oh yeah, I did. Okay. So this one was a very simple one and it just had 2 out of 4, but you would be able to select any one of the Pressbooks assignments in your course and change the view. The search tool lets you search the students. So if you have a lot of students, you're going to have pagination and you'll be able to search within it. And then if students come to you and say, hey, I've got a grading issue, the most common grading issue we see is that they just don't click the finish button. And so their score is like a dash. They don't have a grade. But if they do have a serious grading issue, then you can report it here, fill out the name and the information, and our team will investigate and look into it. So far, we don't really get grading issues because the tool works as it's supposed to. But, there are weird things that happen from time to time. And so that's how that works for the instructor.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. That's basically the tour. That's how Pressbooks Results works in Blackboard. For the people on the recording, I want to say we appreciate what you do for teaching and learning, and we look forward to supporting you. Hope that your term goes well.